Holy smokes, that took forever to go live.
Hmm.
Nicholas,
Yes.
I am in a top golf league, if you can believe that.
Oh, wow. I can very much so. Yes.
And after 2 weeks, you were looking at the number one ranked team
Whoa.
out of 30 teams.
Wow. Okay. Out of
Yeah.
30 teams. Wow. That's impressive. Jeez. So,
So I'm gonna tell you something. So we went last week, and last week was more like practice and everything, just to kind of get everyone familiar with Top Golf, who maybe hasn't done Top Golf before, and how the leagues work, all that stuff. So I started off last week hot, and then man, it did not go. It did not. The night did not end well. So I was able to get there a little early last night. Now it's wild because for as little money as we've paid, we get this thing for like 4 hours. So I was the first one there, so I got to practice. I probably ripped off 50, 60 balls, and I couldn't fucking hit shit.
ooh.
It was like I had the yips.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh,
But now I'll tell you something, right? That red light went on. It was game time, buddy. I was ripping it. Absolutely ripping it. And
tell
I
you what.
stay all of that. Oh, what are you gonna say?
I was gonna say, I tell you, man, like sometimes it's actually I found that it's better to have a bad warm up than have a good warm up because then you get all that bad shit out of your system. You know what's off, and then you're good going into game time, and that's proof right there.
And you know what it was? It was my stance of all things. It was the
Hmm.
way I was addressing the ball. I made a quick little tweak. I say all of that, Nicholas, because I am fired up because we've got a hell of a show tonight, and I'm going to tell you, Doc's on fire. I am fucking feeling it. And with that said, watch me screw up the intro, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of all ages, the Dork Shared Universe. Geeks Worldwide Radio. Hear that? Worldwide Radio proudly presents to you the greatest, and I mean the greatest. Suck it, P.T. Barnum. We are the greatest podcasting team in the world. He's the Fry Guy, Nick Fryer. I'm your friendly neighborhood backcracker, Dr. Joe, and together we are the TLDR Comic Book Club. Baby, how's it going, Nick?
Perfection. I just
Yeah.
want to know why P.T. Barnum caught a stray tonight. Didn't have that on my bingo card. And also, I'm really appreciative that you still consider you and I the greatest podcasting team in the world after what happened this weekend with Royal Rumble, because you won, but I unfortunately didn't carry my weight, and but your other podcast partner did.
Okay, so to answer the first question, the greatest show. We are the greatest show. This is the
Okay.
greatest show.
Sure.
A
Yep.
wonderful musical, by the way.
Yes, it is.
Hugh Jackman, just a tremendous song and dance, man. 2, if rumors are to be true, if the dirt sheets are to be believed in, Nicholas, I got gypped. I should have won both.
Oh.
CM Punk got hurt, and they had to call an audible. I had CM
Ooh.
Punk, baby. That should have been the winner.
Oh,
But with
wow.
that said, the Pineapple Boys did reign victorious. Now, I want to say this too, and I have to go back and look at the archives because I won the female Royal Rumble a few years ago when I got Ronda Rousey,
Hmm.
right? And I'm pretty sure Billy won. I think Billy might have won that year too.
Really?
Yeah, I'd have to go back and take a look at the archives.
That's wild.
But I think the Pineapple Boys reigned victorious. Like, this is kind of weird. But anyways,
You know what though? I think you're for those who are watching us on Doc's Twitch stream or on Twitter or maybe on our YouTube page. You can find us in all those places, depending on where you're finding us now. But if you look on Doc's screen right now, it says, "I didn't rig shit." But if we're seeing stuff repeat itself like that, so like perfectly, I don't know, man. You sure
I didn't bring shit.
about that? But yes, if you're fine, well, go ahead. Sorry.
What I was gonna say is what it did was it allowed me to send final payment. I was on a layaway program with Nicholas for our trip to Chicago.
Yes. Yeah, we can tell people now. Yeah, but everything's been finalized. We are going to be at C2E2 this year. I know they're starting to finally announce some of the guests and everything, but the biggest ones they have yet to announce, and that's you and I. But we're very excited for some of the names that we're seeing. Of course, the biggest one right now is a friend of the show, Chip Zdarsky, aka my Chip, but
My
of
Chip.
course your Chip. I
Yeah.
apologize.
Yeah,
Yes.
damn right you apologize. Don't fuck that up again.
Well, do I say is it like he's known as my Chip by you? Like
Yeah.
that's a mouthful though. I just
You would say Doc's Chip.
Doc's Chip. Okay, got it. Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see how he feels about that because I don't know. I don't know if you
As I
called
get
him.
escorted out of C2E2 for stalking.
I don't know if the last time he was on, you referred to him as my Chip yet. So
I'm not sure. I can't remember. But what I really want to know, what the people want to know, Nicholas, is where are we going for pizza?
oh, it's Lou Malnati's. It's not even a
Yeah,
question.
I'm just gonna smother that all over my body.
Okay.
And then I will be throating some Italian beefs as well. Take that
Yes.
how you wish, how you want.
Yep.
The
Definitely gonna
hot
go
dogs,
for Portillo's.
get a hot dog, get a hot dog, but like the hot dog for me is like third on the Chicago food list.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I don't even know if I put it that high on mine, but I definitely Portillo's. We'll be hitting up Portillo's for sure. That Lou Malnati's. Anybody who says Giordano's is better, stop listening to the show. You're not
Well,
allowed
hey now, I got no beef with Giordano's. We will not slander
to.
Giordano's. I
It's
won't. I've
fine.
never had Lou Malnati, so I can't make the claim that Giordano's is the goat. Giordano's is the only Chicago deep dish pizza I've had while I was in Chicago because I was only there briefly. I didn't get a ton of chance to
Okay.
stay in the city. So a former patient of mine had said go to Giordano's.
Okay.
So
It's
go ahead.
look. It's fine. Like I don't hate it, but like when you talk about the difference between the two, I don't want to hear like what like only Lou Malnati's is the better one. It's lose lose.
And you want to hear something fucking wild? So my Tic Tac algorithm is a cesspool, as you can imagine. But there's a lot of food on there,
Mm.
and I get a lot of one bite review Tic Tacs on there, but I also get a lot of Chicago deep dish stuff. And whenever Giordano's it's Giordano's of Orlando. What the fuck?
What the
Like,
hell?
why of Orlando? I don't give two poops about deep dish in Orlando. It's Chicago, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's like we have Unos like everywhere across the country, right? It's like it's not
Fucking who
really
knows?
not really
Anyways,
the same thing. But I brought up Chip, and we've had him on the show. For those who are new to the show, maybe just catching us on Twitter or maybe on Doc's Twitch stream or whatever. We've had him on twice, if I'm not
three
mistaken.
times,
So
no?
no, two times. One for Newbern, and then one around the Devil's Reign time. I don't think those were at the same exact time, but either way, it's only been twice. You can double check me by all means. But if you're wondering how come I can't find those anywhere on your YouTube page or on Doc's Twitch stream, that's because the only place you can find those conversations are on our audio channels. So that's Apple, Spotify, Geeks Worldwide Radio, SoundCloud. Every time I want to say Stitcher, but Stitcher no longer exists. But Pocket Cast is out there, Amazon, I think maybe Audible. Either way, any major podcasting platform you can find us. And if you're finding us on the stream right now and you're wondering, hey, I don't see you guys on the audio channel I use, by all means, let us know. You can slide into our DMs and we'll happily move our stuff over there. But we are on all the major ones. That's the only place you can find any of our Friar side chats. And those are with creators across the industry, artists, writers, editors, you name it. I think the only thing we haven't done yet is as a letterer, which I'm sure at some point down the line we will mix one or two in. But when you go to our audio channel too, please leave a 5-star rating and review. If you can leave a higher rating than 5, leave the highest one that you can. Otherwise, you're going to learn the real meaning of Backcracker and you will ruin Joe's weekend and inadvertently also probably ruin mine as well because I'll be feeling bad for Joe the whole time. But enough of that, Joe. It's time for us to talk about the books that we've been catching up on since we last convened before we get to what's new. What have you been catching up on?
I didn't catch up on much. It was a pretty busy weekend. We had the Rumble, had a birthday party to go to,
Oh, you too.
football, all that good stuff. But I caught up on the final issue of Dracula by James Tynion and Martin Simmons.
Mm.
Man, so this is a title that if we do another horror themed episode again this year, which we probably do in October, maybe this is somewhere on the list. This was really good.
Oh, you mean if we do a top 10 or are you talking about
Well, if we expand it, right? We talked about expanding it,
oh yeah.
right? Right. This was a really good book. Like Tynan has great command. Like Dracula, it's a Dracula book, but he's more of a background character. This is a lot of Van Helsing. This is a lot of
Oh,
Renfield. It was just really fucking good, like plain and simple. That's just I'll talk about this book at some point.
Okay.
And then I started reading Cobra Commander by Joshua Williamson, and
Ooh.
boy, does that book start off hot.
Yeah, I see
Yeah,
the because I think it's teased at the end of Duke, if I'm not mistaken.
yep,
One of the yeah. So
yep,
yeah, that looks. Look. I'm reading Duke and I'm reading Transformers, but I'm gonna
dude.
you take Cobra Commander. Commander.
Okay, you're missing out.
Okay.
That book started off a lot. It's not your kid's Cobra
Hmm,
Commander. Right off the
interesting.
rip, this book is starts off with some nice violence. Love it.
Okay.
It's
I
fantastic.
think it's good for us to at least have one of those talked about on the show if it has that potential because we're both doing Duke, we're both reading Transformers, so let's mix that one in because that's
I'll
one that
take
I
that.
probably would have passed on anyways.
Well,
Now as
Scott
for
Snyder had some very high praise for this book.
yeah, yes, you are
Yeah.
absolutely right. So for me, I've been catching up. I caught up on the Resurrection of Magneto, which is good. There's at least going to be another issue of that strong stuff there. That's from Al Ewing, and then I have finished all of Jed McKay's run of Moon Knight
Ah,
week to week. So this would be technically the fifth volume, which is not out yet. Of course, 26 through 33 through 30. Excuse me. The single issues are all out, but I've caught up on all of that, so I can get in on the Vengeance of the Moon Knight, which Jed McKay is also writing. I think I'm not sure what I want to do. Like if I want to talk about all of his Moon Knight stuff, or I want to see how Spirit of the Vengeance of the Moon Knight transpires. But I'm going to talk about one of them, so I may just wait a little bit, see how that goes, and then touch base after that arc ends. Because if it's great, then I'll do it, and if not, then I will just do his Moon Knight run but I have to imagine it's going to be awesome because he's done an outstanding job. Now, before we get into this loaded week of books that are coming out, because wow, there's a ton of good stuff coming out this week. I did have a question for you. So I was also at a birthday celebration this weekend, so I was in Connecticut as a result. Went to a bookshop and I saw the first volume of I Hate Fairyland. You have not read this. You did have dibs on it because it's Scotty Young, and look. I like Scotty Young a lot too. But
I
you
don't know if I called dibs, but I might have said it's a book I'm interested in.
okay.
So by all means, if you beat me to it, then you beat me to it.
Okay, so because I've been waiting on that. I'm gonna check it out. And the first volume, I know there was like I don't know what volumes were he's been doing recently, but the title has come back. So I'm gonna check out that first volume, and I'll circle back and let you know if it's something that's gonna be TLDR worthy. I would imagine it's gonna be as much as we haven't talked a ton of Scotty Young on here, but I love his art style. Obviously, he's a good writer too. But anyways, you good to get into what's new?
Yeah. Now you said this was a loaded week. I would say Image has a loaded week.
Uh, okay. I mean, it's a loaded week. It's period. I mean, I'm just looking at it's a loaded week. But yes, Image is definitely what sets it above.
There's a lot of stuff out there. But I would say Image by far is carrying the load.
That's true.
Uh
There's no
I-
question about that.
so like as usual, Marvel has 1,000 books out this week. So we have the Incredible Hulk issue 8, Avengers Twilight issue 2, Dr. Aphra issue 40, that's a Star Wars book. We have Spider-Boy issue 3, Spine Tingling Spider-Man issue 4, Dead X-Men issue 1, which is another one I meant to read. I just didn't get a chance
Yeah,
to.
Steve
Uh,
Fox definitely going to be checking that out.
Yep. Avengers Inc. issue 5, Carnage issue 3, Miguel O'Hara Spider-Man 2099 issue 5, Deadly Hands of Kung Fu Gang War issue 2, Marvel Superhero Secret Wars Battle World issue 3, and then Marvel Voices Legends issue 1, and then the one book from Marvel I really, really wanted to get a chance to read. I ran out of time today. Wolverine issue 42, the Jackie Robinson issue of 42, if you will.
Yes. So we got Benjamin Percy, Victor LaValle as the writers, Corey Smith is the penciler, Oren Jr. is the inker, and then Alex Sinclair is the colorist. Second issue of the Sabretooth War. Again, this has not only like where it's like the most violent or whatever Wolverine story you've ever seen, but it also has a warning on the cover of the book that says, and I quote, parental advisory not for kids. Okay, you remember we talked about this last time? Like
Yeah,
there's
yeah, it
legitimate
was
parental
fucking
advisory.
wild.
Yes, and this thing was the second issue of the Sabretooth War after things got absolutely crazy in the first issue, especially the ending of that thing. It all continues insane violence, especially for a Marvel book, insane torture that
Oh,
Wolverine undergoes too. And that's not a spoiler.
oh,
Like it is crazy what happens to him throughout this story. And then the action, there's quite a few characters who there are already characters who were kind of teased, like X-Force characters, who we saw a little bit of in the first issue of the Sabretooth War. We see some more of them in different ones incorporated in various fashions. I love what Percy and LaValle did with the Sabretooth and with Wolverine and these other X-Force characters throughout this issue. Like first issue, 10 out of 10. Second issue, 10 out of 10. Like this, you have to be reading the Sabretooth War stuff if you like Wolverine at all. Outstanding stuff, Joe.
yeah, I'm reading that tonight. I'm so pissed I
Do it.
didn't read this before the show.
Yeah, gotta do it.
Because that last that last issue, right, part one, I mean, was so crackers, right? So damn it. So
This is right now. I mean, there's some really really good books out this week. This was number one on my list. Like number one
yeah,
in terms of like I had to read it first, and then it ended up like living up to the hype of like this is the best book of the week. It's outstanding. From Image, we got World Tree issue 7, which we are now both reading because I was
yes,
able to
I
keep.
highlighted the wrong color.
You're good. But I'm letting the people know that I've like again a book I had serious FOMO about, and I'm so glad I'm able to read this.
Are you
thing.
caught up?
I did actually didn't read this issue. I'm caught up otherwise.
Okay. That's fine. That's fine. At least you're caught up to this issue. That's fine.
King Spawn issue 30, Duke issue 2, Dark Ride issue 10, Edenwood issue 4, Quest issue 5, Siphon issue 3, The Dead Lucky issue 11, and then we got 3 books that we want to touch on, but I'm going to let you pick first.
Yeah, Edenwood's another one that I have to go back and read. That's the Tony Daniel book, which is we absolutely love.
So visual, it's visually is absolutely stunning, man. I mean, as you would expect, but it's so cool.
Yeah, and we just have not been getting like Skybound review copies. I would have loved to have read Duke too, but I'm gonna kick us off, Nicholas, with Local Man issue 9, because man, like, how do I say this? This book is just so fucking good, right? And this issue in particular, like this second arc has been like the first arc was great, but I think the second arc for me has been better. And that's saying something because the first arc was just absolutely tremendous. But what we get in this issue, this was, I think, the best issue of the series so far. The interactions you have with Crossjack and just how like everything he touches turns to shit, but everything really comes to the forefront in this particular issue. And then the way it ends, I don't know if you had a chance to read it yet, Nicholas, but
yes, I did.
The ending to this issue was so good because it wasn't like, oh, like something like bombastic, something that like we didn't like, like just came out of nowhere. Like it was just like a perfect cliffhanger way to end this particular issue where like, yes, you didn't see it coming in that regards. Like, Seeley and Fleeks did a really good job at like giving you a really good solid end to this, but it was like, it didn't need to be like, someone just like absolutely like just pulling something out of nowhere and giving you this jaw dropping ending. It fits the story so well. I saw that and I went, fuck, I want issue 10 now. Like it was like, I remember like going to see, like, I think I've used this analogy before, like the second Matrix movie. I remember in the middle of the theater, right when it ended, going, are you fucking kidding me? That's how you're going to end this? And now I've got to wait like an entire year for the third movie to come out, right? That's sort of how I felt at the end of this issue. I was like, you kidding me? You're going to give me that? And then, guys, if you're listening, right, please, you could send me that digital copy ahead of time. It doesn't need to be colored. I just need to know what happens. Yes. That's how good this issue was, man. It was just I got a little excited there at the end, but like that's just how much I love this series. This is a book that when it's all said and done, You're gonna buy it. You're gonna have the omnibus or whatever, the complete edition, on your bookshelf. This is just such a good series. I can't praise it enough.
Yeah, for real. I mean, in my thing too, when you talk about the ending, this is they something happens in this issue that sets up for the ending, and it's done so perfectly, like just naturally in the course of everything, and it's been building up for that to possibly take on the life that it does in Local Man issue 9, the one that's out this month, and then the ending. I agree, like it's a great ending, like it is
It's a
an
perfect
outstanding ending.
ending. Yeah.
It is. It's a perfect ending, but it's like you're right. In a way, it's a jaw dropper because it's like, oh fuck. But at the same time, it's like this has been there. Like you
Yeah.
knew this, always knew this could happen. So it's not like an out of left field thing. But to me, like this just that the way this issue was done, like the important the major like tentpole moments of this issue are just a great example of just how strong their writing is on this series. These guys have been doing an outstanding job, and they laid the foundation for this issue. And now, like it's been great so far, but this issue is like could be where like shit just goes absolutely like bananas from here compared to everything else we've had in these 9 issues so far. It's outstanding, very
Yeah.
very well done.
It was perfectly executed, is what it was.
Yep, 100%. That's the best way to put it in a short sentence, in a few words. Where do you want to go next?
Let's go Philadelphia, and then you can discuss the number one.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. All right, yeah. So Philadelphia, we finally get the full issue of Savage Dragon. What'd you think?
So I'm not very familiar with this character. But I tell you what, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna familiarize myself with Savage Dragon, because he's one of the OGs, right? In
Hmm.
the Image world, along with Spawn. So we get some more of your boy, who you love in this book.
Toussaint. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Man.
this was a really good issue. This was like just that perfect issue. It's like, okay, we're setting things up here now. Like, this wasn't like a high octane, like fast paced, kind of issue, but like that, with that introduction of Savage Dragon and just sort of where things are going now. Like, this was such a great issue to kind of set up what's coming next. And Alexander's and Herman Irma Sleep's art, again, fucking fantastic, right?
Yeah.
It's vicious even when vicious things aren't even happening, right?
Yeah.
That's what I love about it.
There are some pretty vicious things that happen in
There
this
are,
issue.
no doubt.
Maybe for a Philadelphia issue, it's not like not an all time vicious thing, but like my thing coming out of this was like these guys have like zero fucking chill, like the two of them,
Oh,
like
zero.
Irma Soup
Yeah, yeah,
and Jason Sean Alexander. It's like Jesus Christ, like
yeah.
they just go absolutely batshit with some of these images. And then the other thing too was what Rodney's doing with this character Harold, who we're getting some
Oh,
narration and
yeah.
everything in the first few pages. And I'm like, okay, what's this? And then we get then more and more throughout the issue. While elsewhere we're seeing Seesaw doing his thing with Savage Dragon and Toussaint and whatnot. But this other story that's like developing in the background is like, what is this?
I'm gonna predict it now. Not that Rodney hasn't done anything. He continues to knock our socks off,
Right.
but I've got a feeling that there's a reveal coming here. This was really gonna knock our socks off.
Yeah.
Just because, like I said, that's what this issue did. It sets it up. It sets things up, and
Yeah.
he's setting something up for this reveal here. That I think it's gonna have you and I just speechless.
Yeah, it feels pretty friggin' terrifying too. So I'm very
Yeah.
excited for whatever it is that those three guys have in store for us. But yes, you did allude to a first issue that is out this week from Image. We got Moon Man issue 1, which is written by Kyle Higgins and Scott Muscuddy, who is better known as Kid Cudi. So this is his debut. Obviously, we see quite a few celebrities in various forms, dip their toe into the comic space. We also have Marco Licati as the artist, and then Igor Monti doing the colors. And I am going to call dibs on this one. And this was one that I saw. Okay, Kyle Higgins is writing it, so I'm going to check this out because Kyle obviously does a great job. And then let's see what Kid Cudi's bringing to the table. And I'll tell you what, like I'm calling dibs because this thing really impressed me. I did not know what to expect from just going into this, because who knows with Kyle co-writing it with somebody. Main character is a guy named Roman, who's an astronaut that doesn't work for NASA, seems to kind of work for like a maybe an Amazon type, where he goes off into space. Some shit happens, and that's where this story starts. He's back from whatever shit has happened, and it seems like there were some complications. A lot went on, but also it was kind of all really quick. So, and then back home now, there's a lot of tension around this company that this guy worked for, and it seems to be some expectation for him to get involved in some capacity. At least it's on one side so far. I'm not sure about the other side necessarily. We'll see. But then, like, even in the first page, you find out like something is going on with Ramon. We don't know exactly what it is. We get a pretty darn good idea as the story goes along, and may force him to have to get involved in this whole mess a little bit more so, but we still don't know exactly what it is that's going on, and that's going to be the big thing as we go forward in this. But yeah, it was great first issue, and the biggest thing too, you see it right in the first page, and I don't know if you've seen the preview pages for this, Joe, but Igor Monti's colors really just trippy as friggin' hell, and it seems very appropriate for an astronaut type story, which I feel like we've seen a few astronaut stories pop up in the past couple of years. Not at Image, so and I've liked a few of them. Haven't been able to talk about them on the show, but this was a great start to the series. So Moon Man issue 1, definitely want to check that out.
Love that. Awesome.
All right. Nothing from. Oh no, we got of course Duke is from Skybound, and then we got from AWA we got Ribbon Queen issue 7. What do we got from Boom?
Okay, so from Boom, we have Coda issue 5, Sirens of the City issue 6. We have we have Power Rangers Unlimited, the Morphin Masters, and I just said, you know what, fuck it, Nick, I'm calling dibs.
Yeah,
just to give you a hard time.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, go ahead, like jump right in the middle of the story, and please do an episode on a one shot. Go for it.
Oh, I can do it. We talked about this. I most certainly could do an episode on a one shot, but just to prevent you from reading something, that's what made me giggle on the inside of my head as I sent that text.
I'll tell you what, killer issue. This is Ryan Parrott writing Ranger Slayer. I don't think I need to say anymore. If you've been listening to the show for any length of time, you know how I feel about that.
Yeah. We have House of Slaughter #1, pen and ink. So this is sort of like a director's cut, so to speak, where it's black and white. You get some, commentary, from the artists and the writers and things like that. And then Orcs, The Gift, issue 2. Let me rip through some of these other ones, so then we can kind of we could talk about Dark Horse real quick before we jump into things here. From IDW, we have Star Trek Picard's Academy issue 5. From Ablaze, we have The Agent issue 2. I have the first issue. I know you read the first one. I still haven't read it yet, but I do want to read it before I get my hands on the second issue. From Dynamite, we have Lilo and Stitch issue 1, Sheena, Queen of the Jungle issue 1, Fatal Exams. What a fucking title this is. Jesus. Sheena, Queen of the Jungle, Fatal Exams, issue 5. What the fuck? Tighten it up. Tighten it up. And then we have Pathfinder, Wake of the Dead, issue 5, from Mad Cave Studios. Now, we have Charred Remains, issue 2, Project Reese, issue 2, and then The Devil That Wears My Face, issue 4, which will take me to Dark Horse, because we have Drive Like Hell, issue 4, the finale, and I linked those two together because, man, what a fucking week is Alex Cormack having.
Damn straight, man.
What a fucking week. We get the announcement that the newest volume of Sync will be launching on Kickstarter, I believe, on Valentine's Day.
I think so, yeah.
Which is apropos. But Drive Like Hell and you've been raving about The Devil That Wears My Face. Those are all good. 3 books that are drawn by Alex Cormack, and like we said many, many times before, like, he has a very particular style that fits stories like these so brilliantly. And I don't know how you felt about Drive Like Hell, but I love the team of Richard Dueck and Alex Cormack, and I thought this was such a satisfying ending to the series, because I didn't know where it was going to go. I didn't know how they're going to end it. and it was so satisfying with the decision that they went in.
Yeah, I agree. Like I'm really like this is a team that you introduced me to, and obviously we've seen Alex do other things. Like we've seen him pair up with John Lees multiple times, as you've alluded to already. I mean, just when you're talking about horror artists, he's absolutely one of the best, and of course, a Floppy Award winner from last year. But yeah, like the ending. There's so much going. It's funny, like they land the plane so well, but at the same time, there's so much shit going on. But it all fits perfectly for the story. Like the tempo has been breakneck fucking calamity the whole time. And it was, I mean, I couldn't ask for more from the ending. I was really happy with it. I agree with you. Very satisfying.
I mean, it was all so very fitting because the title of the book is Drive Like Hell. And the pacing on this from the first panel has just been like, we're popping the restrictor plate, baby. We're going. And so like
Yes.
this book really did move, at 100 miles per hour. And and the ending, man, was chaotic in the most fitting way possible.
Yeah.
And just the last two issues alone, were really effing good. So, like, if you haven't been reading this series, do it. Don't hesitate. Like,
Yep.
I can't recommend Duick and Cormac's, work enough. Read all their books, whether it's Sea of Sorrows, Road of Bones. I always screw the name of this one up. Breath of Sounds, and now Drive Like Hell. They're all very distinct, very very good books. That if you're a horror fan, you're gonna love. Plain and
Yeah,
simple.
this awesome. Like it was a really fun series. Definitely something if you decided like, oh, I might trade weight on this, go get it when that trade comes out. Don't think twice about it. I mean, in this ending too, like I just wanted to say when it comes to like artistically, obviously this has been an outstanding series for both Dewick and Cormac, but like the art, like in this, like you talk about how these last two issues, just those alone, in this issue, I felt like Rich and Alex like stepped up like their game even more than they already had, and the imagery that we get from it is
Oh,
very is grand and calamitous.
yeah,
If you don't know what the how that's fucking possible, like you read this book and you will understand exactly what I'm talking about when you get to the final chapter of it.
yeah.
But yeah, Drive Like Hell is over. It would absolutely be a TLDR worthy book. Maybe we'll do a one shot someday, although we've talked about this book every month
Mhm.
extensively. So definitely go check that out at some point if you haven't already. Then, Joe, we have from Distillery, Somna issue 2. This is Becky Cloonan and Tula Lote. I have dibs on this one. I am very excited to check this out. We do not get review copies of this, so we can't dig into it right now. But the first issue, definitely on a TLDR worthy trend and quite risque, I must
Yeah,
say.
on the naughty list.
Yes. And then from DC, we're ending things there for what's new this week. We got Batman Superman World's Finest Annual 2024, Batman Robin Annual, Titans Beast World Issue 6, Alan Scott The Green Lantern Issue 4, Batman Offworld Issue 3, Trinity Special Issue 1, Power Girl Uncovered Issue 1, and DC Power 2024 Issue 1, which then brings us, Joe, to the book you want to discuss this week.
Yeah, so it was funny because I had a completely different book in mind. There's a Brubaker Phillips book that came out a month or so ago. The whole graphic novel, OGN. The title is eluding me at the moment, but I was planning on doing that. But then as I'm thinking about it, I'm like, well, we've done a lot of Brubaker Phillips lately. Let me just go peruse my bookshelf because I've got a huge collection of graphic novels, most of which I have read, but there are some that I have purchased and just haven't gotten to yet. And so I'm looking at it, and I had it down between the book that I'm about to discuss, as well as Planet Hulk, which is supposed to be a very, very good series, which I'm looking forward to reading one day and hopefully talking about on the show. But the book that I chose was Green Arrow Year One. I can't remember when I bought this. It's definitely a couple of years ago
Hmm.
because this has been out for a while. I believe 2007, and then with the series started, and then the graphic, the first trade came out in 2008 or something like that, 2009. But this was written by Andy Diggle with art by Jock.
What a team.
Right. with colors by David Barron and letters by Jared K. Fletcher. So, how did socialite Oliver Queen become the brave hero known as Green Arrow? Find out in this trade paperback volume collecting the 6-issue Origin miniseries. The creative team behind the critically acclaimed Vertigo series, The Losers, reunites and explores Ollie's time on an island where he's forced to fight for his life against dangerous drug dealers and find his true calling. So, Green Arrow, part of the reason why I bought this book and why I chose to read it is I'm not a huge like I sort of obviously between the bow and arrow comparisons, but characters like Green Arrow, like Hawkeye, some of these sort of B level characters, like I know of them. I've never really sat down and be like, oh, I'm gonna read a Green Arrow series. I'm gonna go, pick up a Hawkeye series. And yet I read the Hawkeye.
Yeah.
It was written by Matt Hawkins. It was fantastic. And a lot of that had to do on the show that we both liked. Um, and,
Yeah,
and so
a lot. But I
right,
understand you're more of a Gimli guy. I get it.
right. And in both looks and fandom. Um Thank you for derailing me there. But like I watched the show, right? I watched it the CW show Arrow. I got through the first couple seasons, then it lost me. I guess it ended pretty okay. They got into the Kingdom Come storyline at some point. But anyways, like okay, like it was a good show, especially for being on the CW. But the character was like, okay, it's an interesting character. And so like reading this, like this is a great book. This is a great example of like, okay, here's a character you may be familiar with that, yeah, you kind of like what their origin story is about. It's nothing wildly complicated. He's not a superhero, so to speak, right? He doesn't have superpowers or anything like that. He's just a really kind of cool character. And this series is a great entryway into the character, and really gives you sort of great understanding of who he is, how he came to be, right? As any good origin story would do. And I found this book to be thoroughly enjoyable, like hands down. My nephew's never read Green Arrow. I don't think he's heard of Green Arrow, but he probably doesn't give two poops of Green Arrow. I give him this book. I bet he'd enjoy it very much, right? Anyone that's sort of getting into comics that maybe their passion is the big two, whether it's Marvel or DC. I know that like we really get into the weeds with the independent books, and we do that because we love the stories and the creators and everything about that. So we actually don't do a ton of Marvel and DC. But like someone who's getting into comics, maybe for the first time, a younger reader, these are the types of books that I think are great entryways into giving them something different that I think they'd enjoy. Like there's 1,000 Spider-Man books, there's 1,000 Batman books, Superman, X-Men, you name it, right? um and we all love those characters, but if like I feel like doing something like this, starting to introduce someone like a newer comic book reader into some of these second tier characters, with these really cool stories, is almost like a great gateway into like, okay, let's start exploring some more independent stuff now,
Yeah,
right?
I agree very much so.
Right. So I thought this was an excellent origin story of Green Arrow. What Diggle does here is I think he when creating, well, not creating this character, but when writing his version of this character in the origin story, he sort of takes like the worst parts of Tony Stark, like the human being, not the hero. And he takes all the playboy aspects from Bruce Wayne and perfectly sort of combines them into this character, right? The first issue, Oliver Queen he's a fucking putz, right? And you're kind of actively rooting against him. Like he's that kind of slick back hair, slopping his steaks,
Oh boy.
right?
Lives for New Year's Eve.
Yeah, definitely lives for New Year's Eve, right? And so the way the book starts is he's just a complete asshole, right? Just this, you know, rich playboy, just minus the philanthropy part, right? Because he only cares about himself. But there's at an auction, and there's a bow that was used in the movie Robin Hood, by the actor Errol Flynn, the OG Robin Hood, not the Disney Fox. Although that is one of my preferred versions of
Yeah,
Robin Hood.
that's my hashtag my Robin Hood,
That's your
100%.
Robin Hood, not
Oh
Kevin
yeah.
Costner.
Oh yeah. No, no, nope. It's the Fox, 100%.
So the bidding for this bow starts at $1,000, and this dickhead just shoots right to 100,000. Um, and so like from there, like you're introduced to him, you're introduced to his sort of bodyguard Hackett, his driver bodyguard, sort of like I wouldn't call him his Alfred because we fucking love Alfred, and this guy Hackett, he's another real fucking piece of shit. And so from there, they end up, Hackett has this thing he needs to do, and he needs to like step away for a little bit, but Oliver was like, no, 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 let's make us a trip together. We'll get on my yacht, we'll do this thing. And they're out at sea, and Oliver wasn't supposed to be there because this guy Hackett has stolen a shit ton of his money and was making a deal with someone, and has to, now dispose of Oliver Queen. Talk about being at the wrong place at the wrong time. And so, classic, you know, um, the thing that this guy should do is kill Oliver Queen, but he has a little bit of sympathy, so he just like knocks him out and throws him overboard, assuming he's going to drown. And this is where the origin really begins, where he washes up ashore on this sort of mysterious island. And when he gets there, there's sort of these charred remains of a village. With He finds a well because he needs water, but in that well is nothing but dead bodies. So he spends the next several months really learning how to survive. Right, he fashions himself a bow and arrow so he can hunt, and then he stumbles upon something much, much bigger. And this is where the story then really sort of takes off. And we see that switch from just selfish prick, character into, the Green Arrow that we are all familiar with. And the reasons why he's fighting are noble, and it's very selfless, and it's really badass to sort of see now this chess game between him and what turns out to be an island that is it's owned by a Chinese drug lord who uses it to grow poppies to sell or to make heroin, which they then distribute to the world. And so all the it becomes Oliver's mission to then save the people on the island that have to, they've been enslaved to this work. And so like what's really great about it is like Diggle's writing is just the way he ties everything together. He pulls it all around. It's a tight 6 issues. It reads really fast. It's a great origin story. Jock's art, I mean, if you're not familiar with Jock, you should be, because his art is just like it's really clean. He knows how to do great action scenes. He sucks you right in, to the storytelling. Like his art is, next level, sort of stuff. And then like you go from really, really hating this guy to then, obviously you're really, really rooting for him. And I love that Green Arrow is not a superhero. He wasn't given this origin story where he's got like he was always blessed with tremendous vision or anything like that. He's like, this is a guy who was forced to survive, on his own, and the shit that he learns about himself, and the way that his character changes from the issue 1 to issue 6, is what you want in a story. So like I said, like this is a book like you can give to someone who's like, oh yeah, I've heard of Green Arrow. Oh well, read this. I think
Mm.
you'll really, you really like the character from there. And it's great because now like I'm more interested in wanting to read more, Green Arrow, books, and seeing what creative teams are behind them, and all that. So just, you know this is, like I said, this is a great entry book for new comic book readers that will hopefully spawn them to go want to explore other secondary type characters. And like I said, we don't talk a lot of Marvel and DC books on here, and so this is a great opportunity to sort of explore characters that we necessarily probably wouldn't talk about on this show,
Hmm.
but deserves it. And so I just recommend this to any DC fan out there, any green, fringe Green Arrow fan, or someone that's completely new to comics and or the character. This was a great little book.
Yeah, so oddly enough, I mean, so I do like Green Arrow quite a bit, and I've read actually Benjamin Percy's done some Green Arrow in the
Oh,
past,
see?
and
Yep.
I did
See, I'm
enjoy
gonna go
his
check
work.
that out now.
Yeah, and but I have not read this. But it's honestly a shame that I haven't. This sounds awesome, and like the thing too with Green Arrow, where like if you like Batman, I know you could easily say like, oh, him and Green Arrow, like how different are they? Obviously, Batman is like the most prepared individual there is, but they like over the years, like people talk about how like Batman is almost more for like the wealthy in what he does. Green Arrow tries to be the opposite, and I don't think Batman. I don't think Batman wants to be that. But that's just how some people perceive him. Green Arrow is not that, so it's an interesting character to check out if you like Batman, or if you think Batman isn't what everybody makes him out to be. There's something to check out there. And also on the note of Jock 2, where we've seen him do some really cool Batman stuff. I actually like never like as you're talking about it, I'm like, oh yeah, you know what? This like in the setting too for where Green Arrow is, like I could see Jock absolutely crushing it on Green
Yeah.
Arrow. So like visually, that sounds outstanding.
And you know what Jock does really well too is he does landscapes really well.
Mm.
He has this ability to, again, not just suck you in, but like give you this sort of grand feeling that you're in someplace much bigger, right? I can't remember the name of the title, but the book he did with Scott Snyder over at Comixology. No,
Well,
it wasn't Snyder. It
oh, it
was
was Snow Angels.
Snow Angels with Lemire,
Yep.
right? Like he just had like the way he draws landscapes, right? He just has this ability to like just make things feel epic,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And he does a great job on this too, where the story primarily takes place on this small island. There's some shots that he draws where like, whew, wow, you kind of feel like you're there.
Yeah, that's some cool stuff. Yeah, yeah. The other thing too that I have to come clean on. So I this weekend when I was with the in-laws, we watched Tommy Boy, of
Oh
course,
yeah.
a classic. And when you brought up the name Hackett, I couldn't help but
Oh,
think of Buddy Wackett. And I was, God
what
damn
was
it!
that? Tommy Boy or was that
It's
Black
Tommy Boy.
Sheep?
It's
Yeah, it
Tommy
was.
Boy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
I promise
yeah,
you it was.
yeah.
It's just like it's when it's it's when Richard is or
Oh,
at the pool and everything. Sinner.
yeah.
Richard, who's your favorite little rascal? Is it Alfalfa or Spanky? Chris Farley, man, amazing.
Yeah,
Those
yeah,
two,
that's right.
what a pair, those two. Yeah. Anyways, don't get any ideas when we go to Chicago. But all right,
Oh, well,
so
yeah, Jesus.
I all right. So we're like you said, we don't talk. We we mix it up with the big two stuff, but we don't do a ton when you consider the catalog that those two companies have. But we are doing a Marvel DC episode, so I'm holding up the Marvel end of things here, and I'm talking about Dark X-Men, which is a very recent title that's coming out of the fall of Krakoa. And so Dark X-Men is by Steve Fox. Jonas Scharf. Steve Fox is the writer. Jonas Scharf is the artist. Colors by Frank Martin. Letters by Clayton Cowles. 5-issue series that ended in December. This was on my short list for best new series of 2023. Per League of Comic Geeks, the trade is set to come out in July. I think with everything going on with Krakoa, all things X-Men, it's kind of hard to expect them to do more with these characters beyond these 5 issues. There was definitely room to run it back if they wanted to. That doesn't mean there's not stakes in this series, but it was like they have room to do more here. And quite frankly, I would love to see them do it. Steve Fox is somebody that I don't like. I'm fairly new to. I can't think of anything that he's written. I didn't look into it afterwards, but Jonas Scharf is someone who I am familiar with. We talked about Basilisk a while back on this show. I did an episode on that, and he was the artist on that series. And I'll talk about his approach with these two titles a little bit later on. But the synopsis for Dark X-Men: the Goblin Queen assembles her own team of Dark X-Men. Hope the world survives the experience. Following the explosive events of the Hellfire Gala, Madeline Pryor realizes the world needs the X-Men now more than ever. Havoc and Gambit have served on the team before, but never one that looks like this. And how does young mutant Carmen Cruz, aka Gimmick, fall under the Goblin Queen's sway? Find out in the most horrific installment of the X-Men saga yet. And this is pretty violent. I don't think I'd put it on
Sabretooth and Wolverine.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't put it on that level. But I would say from like what we've seen in recent years, so far, obviously, Sabretooth and Wolverine, like it's just even those first two issues, there's been nothing to that level. Then we get Ghost Rider, and everything with Ghost Rider has been on that, has been on a level. And I know Wolverine's right there, like all pre Sabretooth War, it's had its moments for sure too. I would say after those three titles, like Dark X-Men, for recent stuff, is like in terms of like the violence of the action that we see, because obviously like with X-Men stuff we've seen some crazy, like the most recent Hellfire Gala is absolutely batshit, but in the things that happen are very serious, but at the same time like the action, like we're talking about something different here and what we see in the art. Now, we mentioned some of the main players here already. We got Madeline Pryor, who is Jean Grey's clone. She's out to save mutantdom in a way that feels very similar to the old X-Men. But you could also say in some ways it's kind of like it does have like a Brotherhood of Mutants kind of feel as well. Not that she's out to attack the humans, but she's like, I'm all about saving the mutants. That is all I care about. They are under fire right now. Nobody is here taking care of these people and these individuals. We need to go and make sure they're getting taken care of. Havoc is right alongside her as her lover. Now we all know him as one of the Summers brothers, but he takes on, Madeline's lover in this series. And there's a lot that's going on with that character too. That gets a little spoilery if I say too much more when it comes to him. But I'm listing him second, but that's just because him and Madeline Pryor are an item. Then we get Gambit, who, for my money, I would say is probably the number 2 player on like the good guy side in this series, but he's still not like a primary character. This feels very much like it is a team book. It very much feels like that. Pryor is at the center of things, but it's still like we bounce around to a lot of characters. But I'll get more on Gambit in a second, but I also want to mention Azazel. To me, those are the 4 biggest characters without spoiling anything, and I'm even leaving some stuff out that comes at the end of the first issue just because I want to like leave that for the readers. I think that sets a really good tone to experience that the first time you read it, and I can talk about the series without getting into that. So there are other important players in here, but read the series to find out. You don't need to hear from me who they are. You'll find out as you go along. But what I love, like one of the big things for me when I read this is, okay, so this is like Dark X-Men. That sounds interesting. It sounds like these characters very much operating outside the law, and they're possibly between, the old X-Men and the Brotherhood. All right, I'm interested in that. And then you have Gambit in the mix. Anytime Gambit is in the mix, I'm going to check it out. It is a guarantee. And there have been some recent stuff that maybe wasn't on the level that I wanted to be. And Gambit is a character who I can be quite snobby about. I try not to be with most characters, but honestly, I cannot help it because of how important he was for my comic book fandom. Steve Fox absolutely knows how to write Gambit, like 1,000%. Like I've said it before when I talked about it when the single issues were coming out. Like he does an outstanding job with that character. And then we get Azazel too, who we know, and obviously he's been very relevant recently because he was always known as Nightcrawler's father. And this is a little bit of a spoiler. It's not addressed here, but it's a spoiler for other stuff by a friend of the show, Cy Spurrier, which we talked to him about maybe briefly. We didn't have a lot of time to talk Nightcrawler with him, but what time has made us realize that that Azazel is actually not Nightcrawler's father. His parents are actually Mystique and Destiny. That is a conversation for another day. But Azazel's a character that, like, when that happens,
You
like,
are
okay,
not the father.
yes. When that development happens, like, for me, it's like, okay, that's interesting. Separately, I'm reading Azazel in this series, and a character who don't know a ton outside of his, what we thought his importance to Nightcrawler, and then what we've seen very briefly on the big screen. But character looks cool. He has the same power as Nightcrawler. He seems kind of evil. Okay, so then we get him here, and I'm like, I like this guy. He's a real piece of shit. I'm really glad he's not Nightcrawler's father anymore, because that guy's dealt with enough over the years. But God, like, Azazel is awful, but I also love him for that. He's such an interesting character to have in the mix. And between him and then Madeline Pryor and some of these other players that we have here, like, look, I love Madeline Pryor. I'll get to her more in a second too, but like, Gambit's the voice of reason here. Like, that just, like, that shouldn't happen. But at the same time, like, it was perfectly done. I was blown away.
Two things you're fucked. One, if Gambit is your voice of reason,
Mm-hmm.
and if you're the Boston Red Sox and you say someone like, I don't know, Jeff Fry is a starter on your team, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You're fucked, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. 100%. Yes, Jeff Fry. God, what a pull. But yeah, like, so again, like, at the same time, while he is the voice of reason for this team, it's the way it's done is perfect. And like, for me, that is a huge challenge from a writing standpoint. So, like, Steve Fox is a guy who, like, we talked about it this week. He has it was Dead X-Men coming out. Like, I'm checking out that series, and I'm curious to see, like, if there's other stuff that he's done over the years that I just haven't been aware of, or I'm going to be checking out stuff, moving forward from him. Because if you can go and do that with this character in a less than ideal spot from a writing standpoint to, like, write Gambit at his best, like, I'm very, very much impressed by that. So he absolutely won me over. I'm going to be checking out more Steve Fox stuff down the line, and I also love what he did with Madeline Pryor too. Like, this is a character who I'm sure many X-Men readers are familiar with, if not know very well. Someone who I should definitely know a little better than I do, but I am familiar with her game. But like, and we obviously all know she's been a problem in varying capacities before. But that also made it really interesting, where it's like, okay, she's at the center of these things, and she's trying to do good, and like, all right, well, what's going on here? And she's such a compelling character as the story goes along. And like, again, like, Steve Fox really sets a great tone with her from the jump, where she's like, I'm out to do good by the mutants, but like, I'm not out to do good, if that makes sense. Like, that like, she's very, like, you can feel her passion for the persecution that the mutants are undergoing, again, to like at the nth degree now, because of everything that's gone on. And I just love how he developed her as a character, to the point where, like, I'd love some more Madeline Pryor story. I'd love to see, just those three characters alone. I'd love to see more of them interacting with one another. And I'd love to see Steve Fox writing it. And I'd love to see Jonas Scharf drawing it too. And again, like, Jonas Scharf, a name who I haven't talked about much on this show, and I don't think you have either. But obviously, Basilisk is a series that I talked about on here at length, written by friend of the show, Cullen Bunn, over at Boom. Really enjoyed that series, TLDR book. And that was that series was great visually, and he did a few different things there. And when I saw his art when I saw the art for this book, I didn't realize that. I actually didn't look at the names, because again, I was like, Gambit's in it, I'm checking it out. And then I looked after the fact, and when I saw that it was Jonas Scharf, I was like, oh, that's why this shit felt familiar. Because like there's like, people talk about like Marvel house style, but then like the X-Men kind of have more of a style, like, that's like not the same across all books, but there's a very similar feel across X-Men books. And like, this had that, but at the same time, it's like, I know this artist, like, there's something familiar about it, and I can't quite tell what it is. And then when I saw it was Jonas Scharf, I was like, that makes sense, but also wow, because I would not have pegged that he was going to go and do an X-Men book. Because while he has, like, there, you can, again, while I could tell, like, this is like, I knew this guy from somewhere before, and then when I thought, okay, Basilisk, I see like that style in here still. He also modifies things in a way slightly too, where it feels like this is an X-Men book, like the this era of X-Men book. And I really like, I loved what he did and how he adjusted. And I love that I still felt like that same, the stuff that was in Basilisk that should translate to here. That's still his style. Like it's like he made adjustments, but he didn't compromise like what he is as an artist in the course of doing that. And that was awesome. And he had some great, outstanding action sequences, which I didn't mention before. And and there's some other Jonas Scharf stuff out there. There's actually another title that he did at Boom with Cullen that neither of us have talked about that I intend to check out. If you do the work to find it and look at it first before me, fair game. But at the same time, I do intend to check it out. But I, in general, so like I'm all in on checking out more Steve Fox stuff. And when it comes to Scharf too, I do want to check more out. But I also like, I would love to see from him, I would love to see him get more opportunities because he can do horror. See him get opportunities where it's like an action story, but it incorporates a lot of horror elements within it because he does such a good job with action. And Basilisk kind of puts him in a similar spot there too. But I would like what he has here with the X-Men and what he did with this opportunity. I thought was outstanding. I'm sure he'll get more work from Marvel, if not DC. I'm sure would want to. But like, I would love to see him like some indie, get back into some more indie work too. But either way, like I'm going to be checking out Jonas Scharf stuff as the more I see his name pop up. But really had a lot of fun with Dark X-Men.
So while you were talking about Steve Fox, I was looking his catalog, and so he's done a lot of X-Men, various X-Men stuff. He has a short what he did for TKO. They've got a bunch of these TKO shorts called Night Train. And Nicholas, I had to double check. There's a book that I call Dibs on, that has, it's just in the pile of Dibs books that I have that I read, I loved, and I will bump it up to the top of the pile so you can read it. All Eight Eyes from Dark Horse Comics.
Oh, wait, who's Steve Fox or Scharf?
Steve Fox.
Oh, damn, that was him.
Yeah.
Oh,
With art by Peter
wow.
Kowalski.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Oh, we
We've
know
talked
Peter
about.
Kowalski.
Yep. I mean, I'm assuming it's Peter.
Witcher.
P-I-O. Yep.
Oh, no. Wait, is he Witcher or is he? No, he's wait, no. He's the Kyle Starks book that I Where Monsters Lie.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
That's it. Yep.
Ooh, what a pair.
So I will discuss that book on the show as soon as I can, because it is a really good book. And we got just sidetracked, with holiday stuff and interviews and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh, yeah.
I will bump that up to the top of the pile so you can read it, Nicholas.
What a guy.
It was excellent. So yeah, I was like, Steve Fox. I'm gonna take a look. And yeah. So there we go. Marvel, DC, fucking big two, baby.
Yes. Now, before we get going, I did want to circle back on two things, just that we haven't touched on. Probably should have said it off the top. One, I had one of my nephews. It was his birthday this weekend, and he's big into Pokemon right now. So I know Pokemon, so I'm able to get some stuff there. But I also was like, all right, I've gotten his brother Sonic comics, and he's enjoyed those. And this guy's a little bit younger.
Yes.
So I was like, and I've been thinking about this book because you've talked about it quite a bit on here because your daughter likes it, and that's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Saturday Morning Adventures. So he hasn't read it yet, but I got him that, and he was excited to check that out. I mean, look, he was all caught up in the Pokemon stuff, but that recommendation, I felt so good because he loves animals too. So like, he's gonna have fun with this. TMNT.
Yeah, it's fun, and it's drawn in the style of the 80s 90s cartoon, which is great. So that's awesome. That warms the cockles of my heart.
Yeah, I appreciate you talking about that on here because this is the kind of stuff where like I wouldn't like they like Dogman, and that's really all I mean. Like other than that, it's like I'd be taking shots in the dark. And I'm not saying I couldn't, but it's just So awesome
see if they've read any of the what's it called? Same author, Dave Pilkey, and characters from Dogman. It's the something comics club or something like that. I'll snap a picture of it and send it to you. It's another series of it's like the characters from the Dogman series that start their own comic book club.
Ooh, okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll send me that because The other nephew's coming, and his birthday's in a few months, I think. So, and he's the big dog man guy. So
Okay, I'll
cool.
send it to you. It's a good chance he already knows about it, but just in case, I'll send it to you.
Maybe not. I don't know. But the other thing I wanted to mention off the top of last week's show, so that was in issue 91, I mentioned that there was a Kickstarter that we had retweeted that you guys want to keep tabs on. It's still the launch is not happening for a little bit, but it's not too far away. But I do want to say at least one little bit good on one little tease when it comes to that. Part of the reason what we had mentioned when we retweeted it on Twitter from Thorny Comics, this is the Cloakroom presented by Scott Snyder. It's his class of writers that he does Zoom classes with roughly once a month and everything. And we said that this is something that you're going to hear more about on our show for a reason that I forget exactly how I put it in the tweet, but you might not expect. I actually have a story that I wrote in this. I have an artist who I've been working with, who I've gotten to know for a while, who I met in the class. So we will talk about that on the show more as time goes along and be plugging it and whatnot. Joe knows about it. I've seen some of the art, but there's still stuff in the works. But yes, I wanted to let people know, at least on here, about that.
Yeah, that's fucking awesome, Nicholas. Please just punch. Please
Thank
just punch when you had told me about that news. I'm very excited about this, and I'm sure everyone else will be pleased as well.
Thank you.
Your artist, she's absolutely fucking tremendous.
Yeah, you guys. She's her name's Nye, and you guys can find her on Instagram if you want to get a taste of what her art is like. Riddle__28. She does some awesome stuff. And actually, if you go and see the link that retweeted, I'm sure we'll be retweeting it more and whatnot. But if you look on the Kickstarter page for this series, you will see the main image. Our character is the leftmost image, so it's a biker queen character. So had some fun with that, and I'm looking forward to seeing that all finished up and then everybody will get their hands on it. So yeah, very exciting experience so far.
Yeah, awesome.
All right, that is it. Until next week, Joe, make sure everybody you subscribe to the show on your audio channels, because you never know what the fuck's going to pop up. You never know what's moving on behind the scenes. Fuck, Joe and I don't even know what was going on half the time too. So subscribe. Leave a 5-star rating review. If you can leave a higher rating, leave the highest one that you can. Again, otherwise you're going to learn the real meaning of backcracker. Joe,
not good.
Until next week, stay sexy.
You know it, baby.